G'day there guys, Lee from Fry's Garage here. Got another good one for you. So EGR cooler. So I've done a previous video on how EGR works. So exhaust gas recirculation, it's on everything now. All right, so it's been on the cars. So, your petroleum based cars and then to diesel. Okay, so all that aside, I'm not going to explain how it works. Now, diagnosing. So one of the biggest things I've seen over the years is misdiagnosing, all right? So when we have a failed EGR cooler, right, basically what happens is either the gas gets into the coolant or the coolant gets into the exhaust, okay? Now, when the gas gets into the coolant, obviously under boost, under high flow, exhaust flow, what happens is the gas builds up pressure, then it'll find itself into the coolant, over pressurizes the cooling system, and then basically fills up your overflow bottle and potentially cause other issues, okay? And the other way is that the coolant just absolutely falls into the exhaust side. Generally when the engine's not running, just under its pressure, because remember, a coolant system when it's warm is an enclosed pressure vessel basically. So if you've got a hole in one of the tubes in the exhaust gas, the EGR cooler, under normal pressure, whether it's 7 pounds, 5 pounds, whatnot, it will push itself and leak into the exhaust. So when you go to start that engine up again, that engine's going to burn coolant once the EGR valve opens up, okay? So anyway, so I'm here to tell you how to basically diagnose it properly, because what I found, back to what I was trying to get to before, is when people see bubbles in cooling system, pressurized cooling system, what's the common complacency, everybody? What is it? Head gaskets, cracked heads, blah, 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 turns into massive jobs, okay? And then what happens is people do the heads, even rebuilds or whatnot, and then guess what? It's still doing the same thing. I've seen it so many times, guys. We've all learned from it. Back in the day, probably 25 years ago, I came across my first EGR cooler type scenario, and yeah, I got caught out too, all right? So that's what the older guys like me are here for, to help you guys, right? And just open your eyes up a little bit as a possibility, okay? So I'm gonna show you a way to so easily test and eliminate the EGR cooler, all right, instead of having to take heads off, get them crack tested, etc., okay? So basically the EGR coolers are usually on the back of the engine, or usually on sort of the exhaust side up a little bit, okay? So I'll turn this one around. So this one's a Mazda BT 150. So what are they? I can't remember what size engine they are. I have to look in my book. I actually don't know. I can't tell you, but it's a diesel turbo engine, okay? And it is absolutely pluming white smoke, even at idle, okay? So we have an exhaust system that is full of coolant, and it's ingesting it. It's getting forced into the intake side as soon as that EGR valve opens up, all right? So I'll turn around and I'm gonna show you how to do this quick test, which literally takes up to half an hour, depending on the accessibility of the EGR cooler. But most cars, you're talking 5 minutes, guys. 5 minutes, and you've got a definitive answer of what it is. So I'm gonna turn it around and we'll have a look. Okay, this is the EGR cooler, okay? It's easy. Exhaust gas, so this is actually the turbo side, it's the exhaust manifold side, okay? So the exhaust gas will go through here into your tubes, and then it gets cooled, right? Because even though the coolant's warm, it's still cooler, okay? So coolant comes through, cycles through, round and round, and then out, okay? So the gas comes down, shrinks into sort of a bulkier and usable sort of a gas, and then it'll come through here, and then on the end here is what's called the EGR valve. So that's electronically controlled. I'm not gonna go into that, watch my videos, all right? And then into the engine, okay? So if we have a leak of coolant through the coolant passages somewhere, well, guess what? It's going in and it's going to mix and it's going to get ingested into the engine, consumed, and obviously it's going to be steamy pretty much, all right, which is white smoke, we call it generally, all right. If it's really bad, what can happen is, depending on how long the engine sits, and I've seen big Cummins engines with this problem, and what happens is the EGR coolers, it was that bad a crack and a leak that so much coolant, we're talking litres and litres, actually backfed through the exhaust and on top of cylinders with any cylinder that had an open exhaust valve. Okay, turn the key and you got compression lock and then damage to rods and pistons. Not cool. Anyway, so what is the most logical way to take this cooler out of the circuit knowing that it's potentially got a crack? What do? Simple. We block off the cooling supply, okay? So I love these. Get yourself some good ones because there's some cheap ones, and what happens is when you're trying to squeeze the end, the rest of the plastic sort of bows and it doesn't squeeze tight, okay? So all you do, all right, the worst thing about this job is its accessibility, okay? So if it's a tight squeeze and a small truck and you're a big guy, obviously a bit of an issue, but get one of the smaller guys, it's all good. We'll work as a team, guys, all right? So there's one. I don't know where my smaller one is, don't know, doesn't matter. I'll use this one anyway, okay? Squeeze. You now have the cooling system looped before the EGR cooler, okay? So if this has got a crack, okay, you're not going to have anything in the exhaust. So what do is you can't be complacent, all right? You need to burn the rest of the coolant that is in the exhaust system, all right? Because obviously if there's a lot in there, it's going to take a while. So sometimes it might take 10, 15 minutes of just clearing it out slowly. Now, when you see a reduction in the smoke to the point where I did yesterday, then you know 100% that your EGR cooler is at fault. If you've run this engine for more than sort of 10, 15, 20 minutes and it makes no difference whatsoever to the plumes of white smoke coming out that exhaust, then you have a head gasket or a cracked head, all right? That gives you authorization, all right, to then, further into that diagnosis. Anyway, so short, this was diagnosed, okay? All the smoke went away, pulled it off, and actually when I disconnected these bolts here, water just gushed out between the gasket, all right? And you can see down there, can you see all that raw coolant, all right? Simple as that. Relatively cheap cooler, not too bad to do on the BT150s. And we haven't taken a head off, we haven't done a head gasket, we haven't done anything because we knew definitively that this was the fault, and we found it within 15 minutes, guys. All right. So anyway, hope that's a bit of good info for you. I love these jobs because now the customer knows 100%. EGR cooler just needs an EGR cooler or block it off or whatever he wants to do, and we don't have to pull that engine apart in an expensive way, and the downtime will be very, very minimum. All right. Anyway, so I'll add the photo and the little video of how much white smoke this thing was bellowing out the exhaust, and it's all good now. I've actually done the job, and it's really healthy, no engine problems, purrs like a kitten. All right, you take care of yourselves, have a bonza weekend, Anzac Day tomorrow. Hope to see some guys on the run, or the muscle run, here in Adelaide, and we'll talk soon. Cheerio, guys.